Today I'm going to be talking about the side deck, what you should think about when putting together a side deck, how a side deck works, and the different strategies in putting together a side deck so you'll have a better chance when you go and participate in tournaments yourself. A side deck is a group of 15 cards that you can interchange with your deck in the middle of a match in order to improve your chances during said game. There are a number of things to keep in mind when building a good side deck. I'll go over each thing to keep in mind and what to possibly put into your side deck depending on what your individual deck needs. The first thing to think about is the possibility to extend your deck's versatility. Additional deck archetypes and builds are possible with some differing cards. For example, a pure Muldoche deck build could be changed into a Muldoche Psychic build, or a Fabled deck could become a Fabled Chaos deck. Adding in 5 to 7 different cards can actually change the type of deck that you run, and sometimes that works out better than the original deck versus other decks. The next thing you should try to do with a side deck is possibly to fix what tactics your deck has problems against. In other words, you need to cover for the weaknesses in your deck. Every deck has a weakness, whether it's very broad or sometimes hidden. Every deck has this. For example, a deck based on swarming with numerous mid-powered creatures may have difficulty if your opponent is able to drop 1 or 2 very large creatures. Next, you should keep in mind that you need to also try to prevent your opponent's side decking tactics. If you know your weakness, so does your opponent. You need to prevent them from implementing their strategy with their side deck that might possibly give you trouble with your deck. For example, if your deck needs creatures in the graveyard, you may want to use cards that prevent removal from game or include more spell trap destruction, as your opponent might try to implement a strategy to keep stuff out of your graveyard. Lastly, you should always prepare for the popular or high tier decks. Top tier decks will always appear, but they all have weaknesses. Same with popular decks when new structure decks or sets come out. Good examples of this are Gozen Match for, say, Dragon Rulers, Eradicator Virus for Spellbook, or Debunk for Mermail. There are weaknesses and strategies against every high tier deck. Keep in mind that means they have really good side decks to try to prevent it, but that doesn't still mean you should try to push your side deck tactics.